Tonight, I have a very special guest joining me once again who was just on a few weeks ago, had an extraordinary show, and I felt so compelled to bring him back on. Dan Brown's The Lost Symbol, which has been in the making for a few years now, was to have been all about the legendary Key of Solomon, the real historical connection that connects an existing connection between it and the earliest documents of secret society. And obviously, as a follow-on book for all his past material, his book was going to be named The Solomon Key, and was to be his best work to date due to the primary piece of forgotten history that would turn it into a sensation. But the book that released September 15th did not reveal the actual connecting star secret that his repertoire of topics all apparently immeasurably share, a secret that would challenge the basis of all religions, but in a uniting way. It would prove that we, all of humanity, are of angelic seed, the sacred bloodline of the Christ. Joining me tonight, Wayne Herschel, author of The Hidden Records, talks to me and all of us to discuss the lost symbol of Ra in the Solomon Key parchment. Wayne's theories about star maps laid out by ancient pyramid cultures now reveals a connection to Washington, D.C., the Vatican, and a link to Freemason secrets that is gaining attention on a worldwide level. Wayne discusses the lost symbol tonight and how it relates to our true origins as he proposes by his star map theory. Welcome, Wayne.
Hi, good to be here.
Thanks for joining me all the way from South Africa in the middle of the night. Well, I'm glad to have you here. Now, last time you were here, we had a lot of information to cover. Your book, The Hidden Records, is an extraordinary compilation of years of research and your experiences. And for those of you who want to listen in and maybe hear more about what his star map theories are, I encourage you to go back into my archives and listen to his previous show that aired in August to get a real detailed background of that, because tonight we're going to focus on his newest research and some of the things that he actually has been looking into for quite some time now. So, Wayne, now you had mentioned when you first contacted me that this material was to be contributing to Dan Brown's work that was just released. How was that connection? How was that so?
It was about 2 years ago now. It feels like so long ago. My research went into the direction of exactly the title that he had pre-planned to use, the Key of Solomon. And my material just expanded from the Key of Solomon research into the Vatican research, the Freemason research, for one reason, and that was simply that they all seem to carry the same ancient knowledge of the Egyptians, which the Freemasons are said to base their templates on. But they were repeating the same star map that you've introduced already in their foundations. This is amazing. I mean, the Solomon Key, the Vatican, the Freemasons all seem to have the same link with an obsession on one single star in an ancient text. And I sent it to Dan and through his literary agent, Heidi Lang. And I assumed that it was just going to be his notes compared with mine. And I said to him, look, if your research is the same as mine all the while, just give me a good reference. Mine is published already. I have magazines released with it in. What I'm asking for, just if you use the same conclusion, the same puzzle that I'd cracked on the Solomon Key, just give me a reference. And he felt silent after that. And, of course, the book is released. And there's no Solomon Key. There's very little on the ancient star secret. It's almost as if it's a complete different story.
Now, why do you think that's so? Because it was leaked through the BBC, it was leaked through the media in Europe that he was going to have this theory in his book. Why do you think he decided to change it?
That's something that's going to be very hard to answer because it's a very sensitive issue. But if I had to just take a guess at it, we're going from cover to cover already on that book, and that's it's a short time to really go through every fine little tooth piece in the book. But my pure opinion, and it's just an opinion, is that I think he's joined the Brotherhood.
And what do you mean by Brotherhood?
I think he's joined the Freemason Society and perhaps feels that it's important to keep some certain things out of the media.
Mm-hmm. And so do you think that, for those, I'm thinking of the listeners who are just joining tonight and aren't familiar with your work, in the Hidden Records, the book that you wrote a few years ago, how this is transpiring into being kind of a secret. Now, why would this material that you've offered in your theory be so highly guarded?
Yeah, that's quite interesting as well, because when I first did the book, the whole star map thing, what was the message in these star maps? And it was simply that all humanity is tied to a genesis, not of this earth, that we are the descendants of people that colonized this world, probably in a large mass colonization around about 17,000 years ago. But it's a union kind of message. We're all the same. We're all of this bloodline, the Sangral, the sacred lineage of the Christ, which he was trying to teach, is all of us. And it was quite clear in the Judas document that was unearthed a while ago. The Gospel of Judas says the same thing. Christ goes outside with Judas, and he says to Judas while he looks at the heavens and says, "Behold, that star is also your star to follow." I think it's the union factor, that it's something that brings humanity together. It's something. It's probably not in the best interest of general society to have, and this is going to sound really weird, this is purely my opinion, please understand, it's a very high conspiracy theory. It's not profitable for society today to really just settle down and get on with each other. It's more profitable for war. It's more profitable to go to other people's countries and take their resources. Anything of this nature that is against that kind of thing might just not be in the best interest. And there's a bit of a far-fetched theory, I must be honest, but I can't think of anything else. Why would something like this that brings humanity together be covered up? That I'm even asking.
Well, I don't think it's such a far-fetched theory. I think if you look into some of the systems that we have in place globally, there is certainly profit to be made in separation and keeping it that way. So in unifying a world that is built on profitability of tremendous separation, it definitely makes a lot of sense. If common sense, if you think about it, it's kind of common sense. So let's start with this. What exactly is a Solomon key? What exactly is it?
Yeah, there's a collection of ancient, let's call them talismans. It's strange pictogram drawings with esoteric knowledge in. It's supposed to have originated from King Solomon, hence the name Solomon's Key. It's in the British library. It's actually titled in a manuscript called the Clavicular Solomon's Collection. And this is supposed to pass through time from King Solomon. And the most important part of this huge manuscript is the part that is Hebrew, because obviously it needs to be a Hebrew source if it's the real King Solomon. There's a lot of other countries' talismans in there, from France, Italy, all over the world. But basically the Hebrew portions of it seem to be the most original. And there's one that stands out way amongst the others. It's a puzzle pictogram where it's got this star outer ring with different pieces of what look like makeup parts of a constellation. That's the part that attracted me right in the beginning, researching star constellations. I looked at this weird talisman. In the middle of it as well is a star with a beam of light coming down from it. And that was a big hit for me already, because I knew already there's an Egyptian connection, because there's a tomb in Egypt that has the exact same star with a beam of light coming down from it, down onto terra firma. And it's 3,500 years old. And in this tomb, here's the amazing thing, there's a symbol in there that explains the meaning behind the Ra glyph, the circle with a dot in the middle. It's called a circumpunct. It's not a very common word at all. I mean, when Dan Brown started using it, I thought he could have just called it the Ra symbol, for Pete's sakes. But there it is, and it shows you the exact same picture that is on the Freemason founding document. The first degree tracing board has the same picture, a star with a beam of light. Actually, it's more of a ladder coming down from it. And, the symbol of Ra is on where it touches the earth. It's actually the same title in that ancient document, which is, again, historically sourced from, in this case, it's the University of Bradford in the UK made it available. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this now. I wouldn't even know it existed. And thanks to them making it history, we can put all these pieces together.
So are you saying that the circle with the dot is the lost symbol?
That's it, as simple as that. I was sure it was going to be the Orion symbol, which is in this talisman, because that is the Christ symbol attaching to the Hebrew Solomon key. And the key itself of Solomon is Orion. And I thought, that's a perfect sort of symbol, because none of these symbols are really understood properly. They really are lost. Historians look at the circumpunct, the circle with a dot in the middle, and they say, well, that's sun worship, Ra being the sun going from horizon to horizon. But then you look at this original first usage of the glyph. It's in a tomb with all the gods. It's the only tomb that shows every single god standing on the earth, all looking up at the star. There's even a man, the scribe, telling the story, pointing up at the star. And it's a star because it's got the constellations near it. It's got Sakar as Orion. It's got the leg of the bull, which is a big part of my book, realizing this symbol as well has been completely misunderstood. Historians said, no, this is the symbol for the constellation of the Big Dipper. But, the Big Dipper doesn't fit in with Taurus. It's the leg of the bull. And I found a coffin lid that showed the stars filled in. And if you look at the coffin lid with the stars filled in, it is definitely the Pleiades. And, of course, on the Freemason document, you have 7 stars in the exact same orientation with this leg standing upright. It's looking east, just like the other ancient rites around the world have had this obsession with worshipping stars rising, being reborn in the east. The whole thing fits together in an amazing pictogram puzzle where the Solomon key does the orientation of Orion on the western horizon. It shows the sun on the western horizon and the sun on the eastern horizon. And these little pieces of the puzzle all fit in neatly, and a whole story explaining the position of the star is also on the ecliptic because of the sun path. It's an amazing little artifact, I would even call it. Never mind just a little drawing on a piece of parchment some time ago. This is really a valuable Hebrew document. And it's all gone. It's all missing. Would have been Dan's ultimate story, but it's not there.
And so do you think that maybe the fact that Dan did not reference these symbols or go into this storyline because you felt very strongly that he was indeed going to go into this, but his book was delayed for 2 years. And so now that it's come out and it doesn't have these secrets, and you suggest that perhaps he's become a part of the so-called brotherhood, as you put it, or a Freemason himself. Why do you think you already touched on why people may be threatened by this secret to come out, but I'm just curious. I guess my question is, why would the Freemasons go to such trouble to hide this secret? Is it something that they want as their own? Yeah?
I think, well, you imagine, let's just, again, conspiracy theory, it's only me saying this. I'm not trying to upset Freemasonry because there's one Freemason that I've been in touch with on this blogging site of Dan Brown. He's pretty much the spokesperson for Freemasonry, and he forced me to give him an apology for running his family, he called it. It's like running your family into the mud by me proposing these theories about the link between the Templars and the Freemasons. Obviously, that's another touchy subject because remember, the Templars were being put to death at a time in history, and then suddenly they re-emerged again, and they were called Freemasons. And there's some very sensitive issues here, and with the greatest respect to Freemasonry, please, everybody listening, this is my conspiracy theory. This is nothing more than that, but I'll put the whole thing on the website. You can see the ancient documents. You can make up your own minds. But the way a person that's studying this would think is perhaps there's a pride aspect. Perhaps imagine having this society where there's got to be some sort of great thing that you learn when you go there. And some things, as Freemasons do admit, they do not make public. I've got a feeling this is the basis of it. It's the first degree. It's understanding a star map. But the funny thing is, what it means is another whole issue, because I've been told by 2 Freemasons in a lot of confidentiality that this is something that they don't even understand anymore. They've been thinking that it's Sirius, the star that's the brightest that follows along from Orion, is the blazing star on their star map. And they're quite impressed at this whole thing. If you go the opposite direction from Orion to Taurus, the ancient celestial bull that the ancients worshipped across the whole northern hemisphere, it makes a lot more sense. And it is something pure, it's something special, something to be proud about, something uniting humanity as one global unity with this genesis from another star system. So, it's challenging human origins, it's challenging everything. And, of course, scholars are going to just laugh at this.
So in your mind, is this perhaps the founding Freemason secret?
It has to be. It always was. In fact, I did it so carefully in my book on page 277. I showed the three stars. There's a trinity of three stars that I believe inspired the Holy Trinity of the Christianity part of it, where there's actually three sun-like stars, solar trinities. It's a Sumerian thing. It's an ancient Egyptian thing. They had this obsession with three primary star gods, deities, call them what you like. I honestly believe they were just people with advanced technology that were worshipped as gods because they could do amazing things with their technology, and they came back to try and teach us when we had really gone down the hill after what I believe the biblical flood was the result of losing everything, people being hunters and gatherers again, and generations pass, and of course these people come and visit again from the sky, and these are gods. These people just don't even look human. They wear masks, they've got breathing devices, and quite daunting and almost like powerful and inspiring for them. So it's kind of how we would look if we landed on another world. We actually have a caller. I'm going to take a call. We are taking topic-specific questions of everybody listening. If you would like to ask Wayne a question or talk about some of his theories, and you'd like to call in and talk to us, we are taking calls. Or you could send an in quick message, and we'd be happy to read them on the air. Jay from Alberta. Hi, Jay. How are you?
Hey, Hillary. How's it going?
It's going good. You have a question for Wayne?
Yes, I do. I just wondered, I was looking at your website now, and it's really, really interesting. And, thanks for staying up early in the morning. My first question is that it's, these maps, they were created when the stars were a certain way. Is this taking account of what the stars are like now, or do you have to go back when it was created? And do you know when it approximately was created, the pictogram?
Yeah.
Puzzle.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm going back 17,000 years ago. That was really deciphered from the oldest star map, I believe. And would you believe it's not on this Earth, it's on Mars? It's so well put together. The anomalies on Mars actually are so neatly encompassing size of stars, positionings. I noticed as well the Pleiades fits exactly the same over the Mars templates almost as it does today. And then dealing with a lot of astronomers, my hobby is astronomy. I'm not a professional astronomer, but the first thing we said was, whoa, we've got to look at the stars at least 17,000 years ago and their positions and how they move on the horizon, the eastern horizon, the orientations, everything taken into account. But the Pleiades don't really change much in a matter of 25,000 years. They all seem to be very consistent, even the tiny little ones in there, because they're so far away. You're talking 700 to 800 light years distance, whereas these little yellow sun-like stars are nearby, anything between 200 to 300 light years away. They move accordingly. They fit the template beautifully around 17,250 odd years ago. So yes, definitely these stars all appear pretty much as they do today, but a perfect fit is more appropriate around about 17,000 years ago for the primary star, the blazing star, the most important one, which I used in my book, and I call it the mystery star or Genesis star. Go ahead.
And it's very interesting, but what is it supposed to reveal? Is it supposed to be like some sort of like a temple it's supposed to reveal, or some sort of puzzle, or what is this supposed to reveal, the pictogram?
Yeah, it's got the most amazing message with it, and it's simply showing this beam of light down to Earth. All the so-called gods of the Egyptians are pointing up at it. It's their star. And being human, looking like us, eating like us, the same lineage, it's just common sense that in every ancient civilization they've all been revisited again and been told the same story, because it's in really remote areas. I mean, it's in the middle of Africa, it's in the Cambodian region, it's all over the earth. They've been retold the story and point up to it as being the ultimate star of their ancestors. It's us, it's humans evolving somewhere else and coming down and taking over Neanderthals' Earth. This Earth has been invaded. Never mind worrying about us being invaded by aliens. It's happened. It's done. It's something pretty remarkable. I mean, if you think of how weird humans are in nature, we actually, our muscle connection is 1/3 retarded. Our bone density is 1/3 retarded. We have been more appropriately suited in a world that's smaller and further away from a star, a sun. In other words, the radiation with, for example, fair skins just doesn't make any sense at all. There's quite a lot attached to it, but it is quite a remarkable thing to think. And this is what I think is so wonderful, that we are of angelic seed, because this is not God on the earth or, we're gods or anything like that. It's simply that our seed, our lineage, took over here, and it's not of this earth.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your participation. Really interesting.
It kind of does something to your consciousness when you start to hear these things. Jay, I recommend highly. His book is very well put together. I have a copy, and I have sent several copies to colleagues and friends of mine. It's very, very well done, and the evidence speaks for itself, really. This is a wonderful theory. The way he's presented it and put it together has been extraordinary. So I highly recommend anybody listening to get themselves a copy of the book and make up your own mind. Wayne, I have to say that in your book you do a wonderful job of leaving it up for people to make the points themselves. You lay out what's a wonderful plethora of information for people to really just kind of connect the dots on their own and make their own opinions. And really, it's quite fascinating. Jay, thank you so much for your call. It was fabulous. Great question. So going back to, now you've had some problems publishing this material, obviously, Wayne, haven't you?
Yeah, it's in 2002 it pretty much started. I had a very nice TV program in South Africa cover the theory, and they said, look, this is such a revelation, such a highly controversial theory. We're going to have to look at it really from two angles. You're either crazy, or let's get some scientists involved and see if they can, tell you what you are. And I said, go ahead. I'd like to know myself if this stuff really rings, everybody's missing link bell. So they went and looked at it. They did a fantastic TV show. It had an amazing response. And the next question was, getting it published. I went to the biggest publisher through a literary agent in the UK. They were very excited about it. They even flashed £50,000 in front of my face and said, this is going to be really fantastic, but we just need a few scholars to go through it. No problem, it'll take a month or two. They were looking at even using Michael Bagent as the author, and I didn't know Michael Bagent then, and I thought, who's he? But he's quite a famous author today, also involved with this subject. And we waited and waited. Then I was getting phone calls from people, one in England, one in Australia, saying, we're looking at your stuff and we're trying to work out this. And I said, hey, hang on a minute. Who gave this to you? Well, no, we were evaluating it. Now, everybody's looking at all this stuff. I'm getting nowhere. It's now a whole year passes. And I'm thinking, it's in the hands of scientists now. It's not getting published. Then the publisher gets back to me, or it was actually my literary agent, saying, guess what? We want to do the book, but we're going to take out the Mars part of it, and, let's look at more of the possibility of it being sun worship. Then we'll publish it. I was so curious. I tell you what.
Okay, I got to interrupt you there. So, okay, if that was the first initial reason for rejecting this mass publication of this book, what's the deal with Richard Hoagland? I mean, he has all of this background and theories and very alternative history type theories with Mars theories and all that. What's the difference? What's the difference?
Well, the different thing with Richard's example, from my perspective, is obviously realizing now it's the same star map as the Freemasons. It might be a pride issue. Richard didn't go play these star map. Richard basically said, there's these funny things on Mars. They look like pyramids. Now, this is quite a controversial theory. It is nothing. In fact, I would say even when the Freemasons saw Richard's theory, there was no connection. I mean, nobody is looking for the Pleiades in this, as far as I believe. I believe, as I say, the Freemasons have got a complete different evolved interpretation of their first-degree tracing board that has got nothing to do with the Pleiades. But when mine showed the patterns are the 7 stars at the right orientation on the eastern horizon, the Senmut tomb, the Cambodian story, the Egyptian pyramid layout with this obelisk being in the right position, suddenly everything hits home as being, whoa, hang on a minute. And, from that day forward, everything has gone wrong. Everything you can imagine, from shipping my books over to do a big promotion in the USA, conspiracy theories where my shipping agent swore blue blind before I left this country in the airplane to go to the US and the UK to do my promotion, that those books were there waiting for me in the harbor. I get there. It's a whole big lot of hogwash. My books are still sitting in South Africa. I wasted the whole trip. Just everything has been going wrong completely. Mm.
Now, in his book, The Hidden Records, Wayne offers 5 strong star map findings, which he's discovered in the layout plans of Stonehenge and its surrounding mounds, the Egyptian pyramids, the Egyptian Sentiment Tomb, the Maya pyramids at Tikal, and the pyramid ruins on Mars. And he claims he's decoded a repeating ancient encrypted message in 3 of the ancient sites, suggesting the human lineage is associated with a nearby star system that has a star identical to our sun. Now, I have to say that the Hopi prophecies are very similar to what you offer in your research, and how they claim that, we have a lot of similarities in what they offer. And you have found that in a lot of different traditions. So is it perhaps that you have found the key to something that nobody really ever thought anybody would put together, being the Pleiades?
Yeah, it's something that, for example, you mentioned the Hopi. There's actually 3 American Indian tribes, the Pawnee tribe, the Skiddy Pawnee tribe, the Cherokee tribe, all 3 different areas, all have the same ancestors, revisit them. Their sort of portrayal of it is quite amazing, because it's all very similar. They were beings that could fly. They show them with wings, all kinds of things like we see in the Sumerian and Egyptian texts. They all had the same pattern again, and their elders, they know this stuff. I mean, they've just always known. Pleiades, ancestors, a star somewhere out there in the Pleiades. It's always been a tradition, and for people in that lineage to see it as well, very proud about it, very excited to see this kind of work come forward. So there is some sort of positive, almost like this is what we've been trying to say kind of thing. And, the recognition of an old story, perhaps. Mm-hmm.
If you want to find out more about Wayne's work, you can go to his website, thekeyofsolomon.net, or thehiddenrecords.com. And you have another website too, correct, Wayne?
Yeah, sure. All the star maps now online is 23 around the globe, ancient, from Stonehenge as well, which to me is wonderful, because Stonehenge never really fitted in with the pyramid civilizations. It's all on the hiddenrecords.com. hiddenrecords.com. You'll see all the star maps there. I want information available freely, although I have a book, The Fundamentals are There for Humanity. There's people that can't afford books, and I'm pretty much one of those. When I do my research, I don't have a budget in South Africa. Books are very expensive. Dan Brown's book, for example, launched at a price of 300 Rand. That's nearly more than double the price you guys pay for a book. So, some things need to be free, especially with the importance and the, call it the restriction of this knowledge getting out there. This has to be available, so it's all there on the internet.
Mm-hmm. So to sum up your claims, are you saying your findings suggest that humanity came from a star which you can identify, according to the maps that you found, of a nearby solar system, and they colonized first Mars, then Earth, some 17,000 years ago? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the chronology is a kind of a debate, and this is where the Freemason tracing board came in. They've got this checkered floor layout. It's almost like a timeline, and the pillars, there's 3 pillars on the ground, as above, so below. These 3 stars have 3 pillars beneath them. Now, the biblical text, Jacob's ladder, is this whole story from the biblical text. That's what the first degree tracing board is. And the timelines seem to show 3 different stars having 3 different, call it, epochs. One being 17,000 years ago, the most important one on the horizon, matching the blazing star. Then there's a second one about, I would say, about 100,000 years ago, and there's another one about 200,000 years ago. If you use those checkerboard tiles on the floor as groups of 20,000 years, it's quite a clever way of showing it, because if you look at the Angkor Wat star map, they seem to be looking at the other star that is, I'll call it the second important star on Mars. It's the 5-sided pyramid. in the Washington star map, it's the Pentagon, the position of the Pentagon. We look at it from above. There's a secondary star of importance with some other lineages. The Cambodian lineage, perhaps their ancestors came from that star system. So, yeah, this is something for scholars. Gosh, it's really, something that needs years of research to go into and reason it when we are open to the fact that we could be from somewhere else. And I think it'll only happen when we have an official UFO sighting and see humans in them. That'll change the world. It'll be quite neat if that would happen.
Some people are going to ask you, how can humans arrive as advanced star travelers per se, but history shows only cavemen? What would be your answer to that?
One thing only, and that is the biblical flood event. It erased everything. It wiped off civilizations off the face of the earth. You can imagine an Earth impact event, which is now on television documentaries and National Geographic and History Channel. They're showing something happened really on a major cataclysmic event around about 10,000 years ago that caused volcanic ash to be deposited throughout the whole northern hemisphere. Something that would probably involve big tsunamis. I believe I found the ground zero there. I better not say too much because I've got one chance of doing another book here and see whether I better not blow it. It's showing the impact event that would cause the northern hemisphere oceans to wash over almost the whole northern part of the globe. And then it would have erased everything other than people climbing onto high mountains and perhaps coming from other countries and coming back into them again. It would have been, all the high-lying areas would have been okay. I mean, we're not talking like the biblical flood covers the whole of the mountains. I mean, it's impossible. But a big tsunami, imagine one that's 100 feet or even a kilometer high. It would work inwards, and there would be highlands that are protected. So there would be people that survive. Now, those poor people surviving have lost everything, crops. There'd be a lot of dead animals to obviously live off for a while, but when the animals start coming back in again, just living would have been really, really difficult. So, if you put human beings on an island somewhere, if you watch the Survivor program, people just not interested in let's say, mining iron. You're just going to be worrying about your meal. Where's your next meal? And a couple of generations later, it's your ancestors are these really advanced people start looking like gods. And, of course, over many generations, when these ancestors came to revisit them and perhaps even thinking of taking them away, they would have had their spears pointing at them and thinking that these creatures are scary.
So why don't scientists see such an obvious human gene difference to apes and humanoids then?
Well, we are finding it out. We're digging deeper into genealogy. Remember the simple thing that, oh gosh, we're so close to the chimpanzee. It's just one tiny little gene, and that's it really. But what's inside those genes? We're getting into that part now, and you're going to see vast differences. I mean, we're talking massive differences between even just our different lineages, our different races. How they've put this whole thing together and said, gosh, we must have come out of Africa because the African gene is the most amount of mutations on it. And then they try and use a high-speed evolution, saying that we all came from the African lineage because that has the most mutations on it. But then you look at the Sumerian writings about the beginnings of humanity, and this is really weird stuff. Zechariah Sitchin translated these amazing texts showing these gods that came down in discs that shone like the sun, and they tried to manipulate humanity to be more earth appropriate. They wanted the lineage of humanity to strengthen. And remember, in those times they were using a lot of slavery, and they were probably more interested in making humanity more workable, perhaps more enslaved, that they produce better work power or who knows what. But there's these amazing texts that show they intervened with the genes. They try to make man more appropriate to Earth. And, we've got this weird kind of science missing. But, of course, scholars are going to say, what the heck is going on here? We're not even prepared to believe we're alone in the universe, that we have other, life out there in the universe yet. We feel more comfortable saying there's none until it hits us in the face. So it goes against every bit of thinking, every bit of historical interpretation, every bit of science interpretation with human origins. So for me to come along and say, hey, folks, let's look at it this way, it's kind of like you throwing mud in their face. It's almost disrespectful. And I can see the point. I can see how scholars have this very, very strict, call it, adherence to theory. Remember, a lot of history is theory. that these all the previous predecessors, historians that are now dead, have set this template of how humanity is formed over the last 10,000 years. That's almost like a gospel, to go against that now and say, oh, hang on a minute. It's very uncomfortable. There's not enough evidence for scholars, for them, in their minds, to take this and say, right, tomorrow we've got a whole new plan. We'll look at this seriously. I promise you, this thing, at the very most, if it can fit in slowly over the next, let's say over the next 5 years, they look at bits of it. Humanity has a lot of pride in this sort of thing. It'll take a long time before they start saying, wow, maybe there's something here. It needs a miracle, to be quite honest.
You know what keeps coming to my mind when you talk about that is the poor soul who first announced to the world that the world was round and not flat, or that the sun didn't revolve around us, we revolved around the sun. It's very interesting how perspective and consciousness changes. When that happens, Galileo has a quote that he says, all truths are easy to understand once they are discovered, but the point is to discover them. And I think that this is what's happening on a lot of people's consciousness right now as we begin to open up and as we entertain different ideas with the effect that it has on consciousness. And I think somebody like Dan Brown, who has tremendous power in the world that we have as it's structured now, with being able to bring out information into a book that is going to be read by tons and tons of people, how that affects human consciousness. And what it brings me back to is the 100th monkey syndrome. The 100th monkey syndrome, one monkey learns how to wash their fruit and water, and then monkeys all over are doing it because there's a shift in consciousness. Truth then becomes truth for all. And I really believe that one of the reasons why material like this, when it's well researched and put together, and it's plain and obvious when you look at what's been put together in your book, the connections and the dots that are connected so clearly, it presents a lot of change, and it presents a lot of uncomfortableness for people who are in a box and used to being in a box and insist the box is all there is, and wants everybody else to believe that is indeed the only thing there is. Until somebody like you comes along and opens up the top of the box and says, there's more to this. There's more to the story. And also, as you were talking, I was thinking about all the great and wonderful authors out there who do have wonderful theories and great, very valid research done on the Orion theory and other theories along the lines of constellations aligning with different temples and such. But you seem to take it one step further. And everybody else seems to stop at the edge of a cliff for whatever reason and not go any further. And you have come along and you have produced a book and a theory, and you're passionately out there speaking about it, and you have gone past that point where everybody else has gone, and everybody's all upset about it. But that's because what you're offering is a different version of reality. And so if we are indeed the product of what you call an arrival here, and genetic, manipulation, as we know now, is very much a real thing in the world. And it's just not, we're taking it as a new discovery. However, if we could discover it, who knows, in our past, perhaps other cultures did. So if we are a product of an arrival here, as you say, how does this fit with the traditional Adam and Eve story?
Yeah, it actually does. What we've kind of gathered from the Adam and Eve story has had a lot of mortal hand adjusting it every couple of 100 years. In fact, maybe even quicker than that. And if you go to the earliest Hebrew writings on the Adam and Eve theory and reread it again, and there was one Hebrew scholar that is open to the Genesis theory of evolution and the days of creation being epochs that go millions of years, and each age is actually a day, would be a day at the center of the universe. Also I'm trying to think of his name, gosh, my mind's a blank, but anyway, fantastic work showing that there is really an evolutional pattern in there from the first simple creatures, then dinosaurs, they call them the great planin in Hebrew. They were great lizards, gosh, I mean, there's a dinosaur era, and then they were followed by birds. I mean, wow, this is evolution to the T, and this is the days of creation. But of course, Adam and Eve come in day 6 or 7. I don't even know my Bible that well. But at the end of the week, or whatever it is, there's humans. And now if you look at the text, this is quite amazing. The Hebrew word for human is Adam. The Hebrew word for to give a life is the Hebrew spoken word Eve. The Hebrew word to have birth, to propagate children, is Cain. I mean, gosh, I put it all together. Take the aspect of the creation as Elohim. Elohim is those that come from above. Eloi, people. Him, the heavens, people from the heavens. Now, this is a very touchy subject even for Hebrews to look at it, because this is 6,000 years old and beyond, and people argue about the interpretation, but it's very simply plural. In their likeness and their image as well fits with it. These are many beings from the sky, the Elohim. And put that whole sentence back in together again, and guess what it reads? I'll try put it together from memory. Those that came from above brought forth, that's another word for create, bring forth, brought forth humanity in their likeness and in their image, and to inherit the earth and to multiply, Adam, and to have children, Cain, and there's Adam and Eve. There is humanity arriving. There is the whole story. And the amazing part of the Adam and Eve story is it brings in the creation in a different part, and we've missed it. It's the tree of life. They were in this garden where there was this cosmic tree, and the cosmic tree rules were given by other beings that brought Adam and Eve there, which is a story talking about bringing humans there. And it's just a really mixed up story, but it's all there. Arrival, learning about God, there's this creational nucleus of the universe. And we are not ready to have all this fruit from this tree, this knowledge, because we'll take all the destructive stuff in it, the Akashic records of all the destruction things humans have done throughout the universe. We would probably have the attraction to use that to create war and rob your neighbor. You know, it's true that our human lineage that was taken there perhaps 6,000 years ago and taught about the story of the Genesis story, let's call it that. But it wasn't the first male and first female there. It was actually people and an arrival. That's the most important part of it, and the God part being this cosmic tree. Gone silent.
Divine intervention, I think. Quote, divine intervention. So I want to move. I've just been enchanted by your descriptions of this. I want to move to the Washington, D.C. layout. The star map that you claim is in the Washington, D.C. There's been a lot of authors who've come forward. William Henry, just to name one, who have talked about Mark Gray, the Washington, D.C. layout plan. What is that?
Yeah, William and Mark spoke about the hypothesis and being Washington, D.C. having some sort of a stargate, some sort of an ascension building that has this cosmic power to induce the soul out of the body. That's a different sort of theory, but they did speak, obviously, like other authors, about this really mysterious layout of Washington, D.C. It has this giant Egyptian-style obelisk in the middle of it. It has the causeway from the Lincoln Memorial, a water causeway going towards the monument, the Washington Monument, going east. It's all on the Egyptian design plan. And if you look at it from above, lo and behold, we have the same basic star map pattern as the template, looking at the Washington Monument, looking at the Pentagon, looking at the area of Roslyn and Arlington. And at night, this whole template illuminates. It's almost an attraction for our ancestors to come down. We're the world superpower, come down and land here. The field that's next to the obelisk, by the way, is a big round field, as you know. And where do you think the Yule tree is? It's on that field, showing the same story. The origin of the Yule tree is amazing too. It's a star map. Okay, it sounds crazy, but they picked the pine tree long before the time of Christ because of its shape. It is reenacting this ladder that comes down from the star. It's the right shape. Of course, what do you put on top of the Christmas tree is the five-pointed star or an angel. These angels and from the star come down in this amazing ancient cosmic pattern. It's the same as the Senma tomb, same as the Freemason tracing board. This old teaching is laid out in Washington, D.C., And it's got this big round field, almost an attractive place to land in front of the world's superpower. But there's even more. I mean, there's even 2 dates where the sky matches the ground. Dan Brown said, 15th of September, my special date, special timing for the release of the book. You go into a computer, look at the sky pattern on the 15th of September, and guess what you see at midnight? The sky rising on the east is the Orion Cross, exactly in line next to the Capitol Dome. His book cover covers that whole picture so well with hidden clues, and then he admitted it. I think this is a crazy conspiracy. I think Dan was going to do this whole thing, and I think with what he was working with, and as a novelist, decided it's just better just to do it the way I've been advised to do it. I don't think he was threatened. It might even be his publishers, for Pete's sakes, said, here's the deal, you do the book only if, because of what we want, and maybe this brotherhood intervention with the publisher. I don't know. It's a wild theory. It's really my crazy conspiracy theory. And I'm quite happy to be laughed at for it, but it's there. These patterns are all there, and there's a Washington star map, there's a Vatican star map. That we can chat about next. Why does the Vatican have the same template when you look at it from above? It's beautiful. I mean, it's the same thing. I just can't emphasize enough that how these massive things all face the sky. We've missed them because they're so damn big.
Now, so when you look at this, I want to go back to the circle with the dot for a second, because you say, now I want to mention to listeners also that Wayne has all of these fabulous diagrams and animated recreations of what he's talking about. So if you go to his website, you can read in great length, actually, and in much depth of exactly what he's talking about. You can see the diagrams. You can watch the alignments. He has some really fabulous animated graphics on his website. So when you look at the obelisk from above, what does it look like?
Well, yeah, I actually missed that. Dan spotted it, and I hope I'm not spoiling this for readers, but you know what? You need to know this because the book is so complex with so many puzzles. Most people have read it, and they're still looking, where's the last symbol? It's the circle with the dot in the middle, and in the grand finale of the book, he's looking across from a very high vantage point down and seeing that if you look at it from above, I think you might have also spotted it from the air in the aircraft flight over it, that it's a circle with a dot, and the obelisk is in the middle of it, and you see it only when you're directly above it to be perfectly clear that it is the same Ra symbol from above, and it's massive. We're talking, can I guess now, it's probably about 200 meters across, just from, not even, maybe let's say 150, maybe 100 meters. It's still really, really big. And it's the exit marks the spot. It's a circle and a dot. It's in the San Tomb. It's on the Freemason drawing board. Remember, on the Freemason drawing board, they have the blazing star. It's a star with a circle around it as well, like in the Solomon key, a star with a ring around it. And in ancient Egypt mythology, it's the Duat. It's the place of the gods. It's all the same. It's all the same stuff.
So you're saying that you deciphered the Freemasons' first degree tracing board document at the Bradford University in the UK. Is the same star map pattern in your book?
Absolutely, to the T. This one is probably the best comparison to the Mars star map because it shows the solar trinity, the three sun-like stars positioned. It's almost like in a triangle. And the way it rises on the eastern horizon, with the most important one in the bottom position, you have the inverted triangle. Now, remember the sacred feminine aspect of Dan Brown's book. Right from the Da Vinci Code, he spoke of the two triangles merging, as above, so below. And the pyramid on the ground is the triangle pointing up, and that's the male. And then, of course, this triangle of something in the sky coming down, and you have this overlay. You get the Solomon Star of David, the two triangles over each other, the Star of David. And amazingly enough, these stars, three in the sky and the pyramid on the ground, like on the $1 bill, put the two over each other, and it's that exact template. It's on the $1 bill. There's a star map on the $1 bill, for Pete's sakes, and it's just the one seal over the other. These things are appearing everywhere, and this is what I realized.
I feel like I'm watching that movie National Treasure every time I have a conversation with you. I can only imagine what your life is like, running from one place to the other. Now we have about 5 minutes left. Now, how is all of this tied into Egypt? Because we have a special announcement at the end of the show.
Oh, yeah. That's ground zero for all this, the source of all this symbology. If you take the obelisk, it was the ultimate monument, not the Sphinx in ancient Egypt. It was the large, giant. They had a Washington size, no, not as big as it, but they had a really massive obelisk once in Egypt, and it was gold capped. It was their ultimate monument. So it's all in Egypt. The whole template of this story, the Ra symbol, the obelisk, the pyramid star maps. Egypt is ground zero for everything. Every tomb, every mural has the Taurus worshipping gods with bull's horns, shows the solar disk on their heads. It's all been interpreted incorrectly, and of course, people need to see the whole story from Egypt first. It's quite a romanticized event to travel through the whole of Egypt and see all the pieces fitting together as a star map, seeing the layout of 50 pyramids matching all the stars and the constellations going around the Earth. That's my theory. Again, it's completely new. It follows on from Robert Bauval's theory. If people can have that life experience and feel the meaning from the beginning of Egypt, that would be the place of the lost symbol of the symbol of Ra.
And so you discovered this by traveling through Egypt. You actually took a trip through Egypt to take a look at the theories that you had, correct?
Yeah, and of course there's a tomb that has the star map, the Senma tomb. If we could take people on tours and show them all this material, the hidden side, call it that, it would be quite a remarkable experience. I would say that's where you can speak about it, because we've already got something going.
Well,
I don't want to let the cat out the bag.
Actually, we do have an announcement to make. If you haven't seen the graphic on my radio homepage already, or my website, or Wayne's website, we are launching a Lost Symbol tour to Egypt for this coming March 2010 for the spring equinox. And if you would like to join Wayne and I on a fabulous recreation of everything he's been talking about in these two-part series of shows, part one was done in August. I consider tonight part two. We will be taking you to these sites to talk about, feel firsthand, and see these actual layouts and how they work yourself in Egypt. And Wayne, so why don't you kind of take the stage, Wayne, and let people know what to expect on our tour?
Well, the best part is the Indiana Jones experience. We're going into one of the oldest tombs. We have to get special permission because the public are not invited into this tomb. It's the deepest, darkest, scariest looking tomb on the face of the planet, and it's right down deep in it, where in the bowels of the earth we have the Senma tomb star map, where the one that matches the Freemason secret. And this is the lost symbol. Dan should have used this in his book. It's the most amazing, let's call it the genesis of the star map. And not just that, we look at obviously how it connects into the whole of Egyptology. I'll even say, as a surprise, in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, I will show a papyrus that shows the landing place of Ra on the back of the Sphinx in a UFO. It's on a papyrus. It shows that he came from the Pleiades. Remember, the sacred feminine in ancient Egypt as well was celebrated as Nut, a woman holding all the stars in her body over the earth, the firmament. There's your sacred feminine. All of this that was left out in the lost symbol, we can share with people.
And I have to tell you, I'm very excited about this trip because Wayne's research has struck a chord as an intuitive myself. A lot of these things come through people in an intuitive sense. We all have the question, where are we from? Why are we here? And we spend our lives searching for answers to that question. And every once in a while, somebody comes along that aids you in a catalytic kind of earthquake shattering reality adjustment. And I consider Wayne one of those people. And I feel very privileged to be working with him as a friend and as a colleague on this tour. And I'm really excited. And he will be giving lectures on his material. He will be presenting them. We will have books available for people on the tour. It's going to be quite the opportunity to walk. And I've been to Egypt a few times, and this it's going to kind of feel like going back for the first time, because the perspective and the things that Wayne will be sharing will be very new and will open up a lot of different things for people, I think. So I'm very excited about it. So if you want more information, go to my website, HillaryRaimo.com, and use the contact page, and we'd be happy to send you the details. So Wayne, in closing, we've come to the end of the show. What is your message with this new stuff? I know the last time you were on, we ended up with a message from the pyramid cultures and your research based on star maps. But with the new findings of the lost symbol and the Key of Solomon, where do we go from here with this? What is your message?
Yeah, it actually goes in the spiritual direction. And would you believe it, Dan Brown actually did that as well in his Lost Symbol book. He went with the study of the human soul, and there's God within us, there's a piece of God within us. That was all covered very well in the Lost Symbol. And even the character Langdon has an out-of-body experience. Really a surprise. I mean, he's gone into the aspects that the Freemasonry Right believes, we all have this link with the creation, the grand architect. It's wonderfully portrayed in the Lost Symbol book too. And from my research, I've obviously had this weird near-death experience in reality. I've lived the Langdon near-death experience, and there is a cosmic tree out there. There is a creation. We are a piece of that creation inside of all of us. I wouldn't say we're God on earth. That's a little bit too much. Let's be humble about it, and we have that consciousness that we can connect and reconnect with the creation with deep meditation and have that intuitive link. I believe a lot of what I've done is because I've developed an intuitive link with really deep meditation. And it goes in the spiritual direction. It's pure. It fits in with all the religions. It's let's call it motivating because it's neutral. It's pro-humanity. It fits in with all religions, and that's where it's going. And that's what's so wonderful. I was so worried that this new message would take us out of religion and take us out of the fundamentals. Yeah.
That's great. HiddenRecords.com.